Greetings, greetings. We are back once again. This is Michael Harris, chairman of the Shelby County Democratic Party, and you are watching Coffee, Candidates, and Conversation. This series we put together, yes, I have my coffee, good brother, in my SCDP cup. And we put this series together so that we could provide an up-close and personal opportunity for voters to learn more about candidates in the place where we're all spending a lot of our time, and that is home. So our special guest for today is seeking re-election to the Tennessee House of Representatives for District 85. And if you don't know who he is and you live in 85, here's your chance to meet your current state representative, Jesse Chism. Welcome to Coffee, Candidates, and Conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
Yeah, man. So we're ready to dive in, but I like your slogan, and so I got to put it up so that people can see what it is. And he's saying, hey, let's fight together.
Let's fight together.
Today he's going to tell us about how we can get in the fight, or at least where our opportunities to fight are as a legislator. And so let me get this screen set up the right way for us. Okay, now before we get to the big issues, let's just talk about who you are. And we know that a lot of voters who are already initiated, they know a lot of information about you, but it's all usually mostly work related, I'd imagine, and most people don't know you personally. So what I'm going to ask you to do to give us all a window into who Representative Jesse Chism is to tell us something about you that we can't Google, that we won't learn from looking at your campaign website, and that we would likely not be able to guess about you if we work with you in a professional capacity.
Okay, well, a few things that you can't Google. I am William and Norma Chism's oldest son. I'm from Lakeview Gardens, and I actually still stay in Lakeview Gardens, so I never left my neighborhood. Also, I got a chance to find out that Brother Michael, you and I both have something in common. We're both piano players. Yeah. So, a lot of people don't know that anymore. And I sing a mean cover tune in the car.
Really?
But if I'm outside of the car, it sounds awful. So,
Oh man, okay. Well, I want to ask you to give us any notes, man. Any notes? We might have to reconvene, and I can give you an A flat to see what you do. We'll put you in F.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, this next question is one that I think is a really big question for candidates and for elected officials, and something that's a good reminder for voters. When we look at elected officials, we usually focus on what their position is on issues affecting us, and as an elected official, the focus usually is on your constituents. And for those who are candidates for and haven't been elected yet, but their focus is also on the concerns of their constituents.
Right.
And we often forget that elected officials and candidates are also voters. So let's take your candidate's hat off for a moment. Let's set that to the side, and let's talk voter to voter.
Okay.
Tell everyone what the biggest issue is to Jesse Chism, the voter.
Jesse Chism, the voter, at this particular stretch in time, I am most concerned about our health care. We have a major healthcare crisis that's going on in our country, in our state, in our county right now. Right now, we have hospitals that are inundated with patients, and you have people working there who are on the front lines, who've had to take on mandatory overtime. These same people are tired, and we don't have all of the resources that are needed in order to tackle this pandemic. So I'm kind of concerned about the health and welfare of our people in Shelby County as a whole.
Okay. Well, in line with that, man, let's talk about healthcare, because, everybody, I think, has kind of been shocked by this, but Tennessee turned down, on at least, I believe it's 3 occasions, $1.4 billion for the expansion of Medicare. So talk about that, and I mean, what was the conversation on the floor as it relates to that issue?
Okay. As we've talked about, and as you know, Democrats have fought. We fought, and we fought some more to get Medicaid expansion. Unfortunately, so many other people on the other side of the aisle disagree that as a state we need that money, and I think there's the issue with COVID-19 and the issues that are going on with our hospitals. I don't know if everyone knows this, but we've had, well, I've lost track of the number. Is it 11 or 12 hospitals to close over the last 10 years? And had we taken the Medicaid funds, we may not have had to close those hospitals, which would be very useful in the time that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand that, and I think the hospital closures specifically have impacted the rural communities in Tennessee, and I know one commonly misunderstood, or at least one wrong assumption that a lot of people can sometimes make is that poverty hits differently in rural communities, but the housing crisis impacts the rural community just like employment, just like the small business deal, because you have folks who have farmland that they're struggling to get that to be productive as well. And so let's sort of go then. You talked about healthcare. Well, if you could tell us how you would have crafted Tennessee's response to COVID-19, if you could draw that.
If it was Jesse Chism, I would have been more aggressive on the front end as far as trying to keep our constituents safe. I would have took heed from our healthcare organizations and our CDC, because the COVID-19 pandemic it's an issue that we've never seen before in our lifetime. And I think too many of us in the legislature, we took the warnings as if they were unwarranted. But now we're starting to see an increase in numbers, an increase in expenses that's due to it. And had we done some things up front, we wouldn't have to worry so much now. So what I would have done, I would have put something in place for our small businesses. Of course, a lot of that is contingent on the federal government raining down funds on us, but I definitely would have worked harder to put systems in place so that people could stay safe.
Okay. And I guess if we could talk about some of the things that were done poorly, what was the talk on the floor for I guess against absentee ballots becoming more accessible, particularly for this election? I mean, what were the counter arguments, or were there any counter arguments?
Well, to be honest with you, on the floor, I did not hear a good response to why they would believe that absentee voting would be harmful. Of course, many of them brought up it would be easier to have fraud in our voting system. But we need people to be able to have access to voting, because I've been at the polls every day since we've opened the polls for early voting. And what I've noticed, there's been a slight decrease in numbers, but there's an air of fear in the air right now. And you have so many people who may have missed the deadline or who may have missed out on getting the absentee voting forms, but these people still need to vote. And so many times rules have been put in place, and I don't know what it is, but it seems like it affects communities of color at a higher rate than everyone else.
Right, I hear you on that piece. And now, as it relates to what you're seeing at the polls in terms of the early voting, are you concerned? I mean, do you see? Are people expressing concern? Are people coming in to vote protected? Are you seeing that if the folks are being safe when they're out there?
So
Is it
the
safe to
sites
go
that
vote?
all of the sites that I've been to, I've seen people practice social distancing. Uh, most of everyone that I've seen has had a mask on. Um, the the actual voting locations they have tape in place, so you will know your place.
Mhm.
You know where to stand to be in in line with social distancing. So what
Mhm.
I've seen is an environment where voters can actually come in and safely vote, because there's been in many cases there have been no line, no wait. So actually, I've been encouraged.
Mhm.
Although the numbers are a bit down, based on what's going on in our country right now and what's going on in our community as a whole, I've actually been encouraged.
Mhm.
I've been encouraged to see people in the morning standing in these long lines to come vote. Because I was telling a lot of voters, I said, hey, we have a lot of people who thought that because there are extra extra things in place to keep
Yeah.
us safe, that we would get discouraged and not come vote. But what
Right.
I've seen people come and vote anyway. I've seen
Mhm.
people take their civic responsibility and take it seriously, and that part that's been a great thing.
All right, man. I have enjoyed it up to this point, man. I want to sort of take the uh, the issue flow in a little bit of a different direction, man. Let's sort of jump into uh, poverty,
Ah,
and let's talk about what's happening in Tennessee, because we know COVID-19 has caused some issues, and we've had issues before COVID-19.
right.
So, what do you see as the top three issues affecting poverty, and what do you think you could do uh, as a legislator, or at least with the uh, support of our legislative body to try and have a positive uh, impact on, or at least reversal on some of these poverty issues?
Right. Well, poverty is the disease that gives symptoms in so many other areas. When we have to treat poverty like an aggressive disease, because once poverty spreads, um, when we attack poverty, we are attacking so many other things that said before. Because due to poverty, you have certain schools who that don't have the resources that they need. Due to poverty, you have people who are not as healthy as they could be. Due to poverty, people's mental health have suffered, especially during the time of this pandemic. You have so many families who've had to choose between trying to pay their rent and putting food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever people have that amount of stress on them, it affects other things in life. So we definitely have to attack that like we attack the issues that are resulting from poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like our education system is suffering, um, the health of our citizens are declining, and crime. Wherever there's poverty, there's crime. People like to use the term B on B crime, if you black on black crime. But a lot of times I tell people that, you know, uh, crime is not reserved for a certain segment of society. It's not
Mm-hmm.
reserved for blacks or whites or Hispanics or anyone else. But wherever there's poverty, you will find that crime tends to be higher than it will be in other places. So
Mm-hmm.
we definitely have to attack it, and we attacked it by making access available for our small business owners. We have to attack poverty by making sure that our schools, and our public schools, essentially, are funded so that our students can have an environment where they can learn. Um, we fight poverty by making sure that our hospitals
Mm-hmm.
are well funded, because when people are healthy, when they are educated, and they have access to capital, they tend to do better in life. And we want to create those opportunities for all Tennesseans, no matter what their zip code is.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something big with healthcare, and I want to touch on that when we come back from this momentary break. And so, everyone, uh, thanks for tuning in. We're about to take a quick break, but you're watching Coffee Candidates in Conversation with our special guest, State Representative Jesse Chism. We're going to take a a quick pause for the cause, and we will be right back to jump into our lightning round. And we'll pick up with our first lightning round question to be a continuation of our discussion about poverty and healthcare. So we'll see you back real soon.
All right.
I am Michael Harris, Chairman of the Shelby County Democratic Party. I'm here to share an important message with you today, and that message is everyone can make a difference, and one vote can be the difference. So raise your voice and vote. And remember, July 30th is the last day to request an absentee ballot. So if you want to vote by absentee ballot, be sure to go to shelbyvotetn.gov and request your absentee ballot. And remember, if you request an absentee ballot, you really need to use it, because if you decide to go to the polls after requesting an absentee ballot, you can vote, but it will be by provisional ballot, and your vote may or may not be counted in this upcoming election. So remember, raise your voice and vote.
We are back. Thank you for holding on with us. Again, you're watching Coffee, Candidates, and Conversation, and we're here with State Representative Jesse Chism, who's seeking re-election to the Tennessee House of Representatives for District 85. And we're about to jump into the lightning round.
Okay. All right.
And so for the lightning round, the way this works is I'm going to throw out an issue, and for each issue, Representative Chism, we want you to grab it, take a hold of it, and tell us your thoughts on it. If there's an opportunity there, break it out and give us as much as you can. We want to try to keep the response for each one to about a minute and a half, and we'll work through some issues. And then at the end of the lightning round, we'll ask you our final big question, and we'll go on from there. All right, so here's the first question, and this kind of is in line with what we were just talking about. You know, we talked about poverty, and we talked about, you mentioned that education is, we've got to make sure that we have an adequate layout for education to improve the poverty situation long term. And then you mentioned healthcare and how, health is affected by poverty. And so here's the.
Oh, I lost you.
To you. Then it says, Tennessee ranks as the 7th worst state in the nation for hypertension and heart disease, 5th worst for diabetes, and 3rd worst for stroke. And together, all of these chronic issues cost the state of Tennessee about $5 billion. And so can you speak to that and give us some insight on why that is the case, and what the lay of the land is for folks who don't have health insurance?
In Tennessee, we have so many people who don't have adequate access to health care. So that makes a lot of people not have access to preventive care. And I was always told if you put gas in the car, you might not end up on the side of the road. But so many people, we're not able to put that gas in the cars of our body. And we're not able to get these checkups these regular checkups that are needed in order to maintain a high quality of health. And by us not taking a $1.4 billion that we could have had in the form of a Medicaid expansion, we are leaving all of these people open to diseases. We're leaving these hospitals to have to foot the bill, and it's causing so many bad things to happen in our healthcare system. Yeah. So we have to do something. We have to convince the other side of the aisle to go ahead and expand Medicaid.
Man, I know I can remember as a child growing up that, I grew up poor in the heart of South Memphis. And, you didn't really go to the doctor if you had an injury or if you hurt yourself. I mean, it had to be a pretty exhaustive injury, really, really, really bad. And if it wasn't absolute emergency type of an emergency, then you basically put something on it, you sit down and you rest, and then that's it, And I think that tends to be the case with people when you don't have preventative care, right?
Right. Well, many of us come from the walk it off generation. You
Yeah.
know, you hurt yourself, walk it off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that is a critical, healthcare is critical for us to improve these statistics, which ultimately improves the bottom line for the state. And that's why I'm glad that you support these issues, man. And let's do another lightning round topic, man. Let's go get it.
Let's get in.
Straightforward. School vouchers. Yes or no? Tell us why.
No, 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 and no. The school voucher deal is just a bad deal, because what you have public funds that are going into private school, and I don't agree today, and I won't agree tomorrow to have public funds going into private enterprise. So I'm a big no.
Okay. Let's move forward. Digital equity. We know a lot of people don't have access to, or at least firm or good access to broadband internet, and especially in some of our rural communities, and even in some of our poorer communities, even
Right.
within the city. Talk about digital equity within education.
Well, we have to get with our broadband partners that have come to the state of Tennessee to expand broadband across our state, because we have so many communities that don't have access to the digital platforms that many of our school systems are going to now, that many of our businesses are going to. And when you have pockets of our state that does not have access to internet, we are setting them up to be behind. So we want all of our people in our state to be able to walk in the same direction and get to what we would call promised land, so that we can all have a great state for all of us. So in digital equity, and as it pertains to our broadband services, is paramount.
Okay. Now, there have been at least this publicized threat of Donald Trump and Betsy DeVos about decreasing federal funding for public school districts that go all virtual. One, let's just assume they decide, hey, okay, so we can do this, and they actually do it. Will that, or could that shut down the operation of a school district, say like Shelby County Schools?
That could shut down not only Shelby County schools, but school systems across our nation. We have, we're in a position right now where many of our school buildings needed maintenance for a long time anyway. So I don't think decreasing funding for our schools when we go virtual is a good idea, because eventually our kids are going back to school. And when they go back, we want to have an inviting environment, an environment where they can learn, an environment that is conducive to not only our students, but our educators and our stakeholders as a whole. So decreasing the funding is a bad idea.
And then put funding out there. I mean, are we adequately funding our school districts' budgetary needs as it relates to being able to compensate educators? And I know that's an issue that has been out there for us to consider. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, due to COVID-19, many of our teachers' raises were cut in the last state budget, and I did not agree with that budget cut going in as far as our teachers, because now for many educators, their job is changing. Their job is changing a lot, and for some it may get harder. For some it may be for some it may be more difficult to do. So cutting teachers' raises and decreasing federal funding to our districts, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, man, and I know I've taken some virtual classes online, and man, they can be a lot more intense than you could imagine. And then we just had our first virtual unity gala for the Shelby County Democratic Party. And if I didn't learn anything else, I learned that it takes meticulous planning and a lot more attention to detail when you're trying to put on or produce something that translates smoothly to the end user in the virtual platform.
Right.
But but everybody talks about what it is they want to do as a state legislator. Big time cash money type promises or visions and goals and dreams of how when they're elected and they get there, things are just going to start happening because they're there and they said so. But let me put something up for you and then let's speak on it. 72 Republicans and 27 Democrats. How do you get things done?
So when I first got elected, I had these lofty dreams about changing the world overnight. And I said, hey, we're gonna go in, we're gonna speak truth to power, and we're gonna get it done. But when I got there, I found out that I was outnumbered 3-1. And in order to get a bill passed, there you need 51 votes. So just by the stats right there, we're 24 down. And we need more Democrats in there. Definitely, we definitely need more Democrats. But I've been blessed to be able to work with people who come from different walks of life, people who think differently from me. Matter of fact, I've learned through both of my parents how to deal with people who I don't agree with. And being able to do that has allowed me and many other Democrats to be able to work across the aisle. Because in order to get anything passed, to get anything done, we have to work across the aisle. So we have to be creative, we have to be innovative, we have to be patient, and we have to be able to walk in rooms where you're the only one. We have to be in committees where you may not get heard. We have to deal with a lot of things. So it has definitely taught me a different level of patience. It's just taught me a different level of being able to negotiate, because in order for Republicans to pass a bill, they don't need a single Democrat vote. For us to pass anything, we have to split their caucus. So it has definitely been a challenge, but it's a challenge that many of us are fit to handle. It's been one of those challenges that I embrace it. I definitely embrace it because it allows us to be able to sharpen our axe a little bit, so to speak.
Okay, I love it. Well, man, let's break into this area. Plans to propose new legislation. Do you have any? And if so, tell us about it.
Oh yes, hey, I'm glad you asked this. I'm excited about it. So, I have a bill to end solitary confinement for both juveniles and pregnant women. So, in the state of Tennessee, a lot of our juvenile detention facilities, as well as our women's facilities, they're not calling it solitary confinement anymore. They're calling it seclusion. However, 23-1 is 23-1, no matter how you put it. You can call it bad coffee, but it's still adverse to many of our youth and many of our pregnant women. For our pregnant women, there's a higher likelihood for miscarriages. For our youth, there's a higher likelihood to have mental illness. So we're not trying to create monsters in our state. We want to take those youth and those pregnant women who've made mistakes and prepare them to go back into our society, because eventually most people are getting out, and we want to create better people who are more prepared for society than they were when they came in.
You're speaking on a big issue, man, especially as it relates to our prison system, man. What do you feel about the heavy privatization of our prison system, and what's the talk been like about curbing that reality? Has there been any talk about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, for many of our detention facilities, they have become very powerful, and uh, facing our institutions has proved to be challenging. Uh, Now, I will say on the bill about solitary confinement for our juveniles, so far we have bipartisan support.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I have something like 27 co-sponsors right now, and that number is steady counting, because we want to make sure that we come up with something that's going to help our community and still allow law enforcement to do their job. You know, because we want our neighborhoods to be safe. We want our neighborhoods to have oversight, but we don't want it to the point where we're locking up droves of people for nonviolent crime. So it's a challenge.
And do you know if is juvenile hall managed by CCA, Core Civic?
Core Civic, from my knowledge, they have a lot of our adult prisons, but for our juvenile facilities, some of them are some of those are private, and some are owned by the counties that they reside in.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, let me throw out another interesting topic for you: legalization of cannabis. So,
Legalization of cannabis.
yeah. What are your thoughts about this?
That's something that definitely needs to be done, and I'll tell you why. We have so many of our youth, especially in the African American community, who have been taken to prison for long periods of time for crimes where no one was hurt. And we are filling our prisons up with people who are not violent, who are people who are really, they're not even criminals. So we have to make sure that we're not over punishing people for things that are legal in other states. And with the revenue, we could solve a lot of problems as it pertains to education. We can solve a lot of problems as it pertains to healthcare. But instead, uh, instead of not legalizing it, we're putting locks on people who could actually be uh, who could be change agents in our communities.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have just two more lightning round questions for you, man, and then we'll get to the to our big closer. So when we talk about poverty and we talk about healthcare, we talk about education, we talk about closing the wealth gap, we have to be able to answer this question in a meaningful way. And that is, what exactly is a livable wage?
Okay. Over the last 2 years, Democrats, we have fought hard for the fight for $15 an hour. And one of our biggest employers, Shelby County Schools, have taken that on, and you have other companies like FedEx who are raising the standards where they are as well. So I really believe that that $15 an hour range is livable wage, only if we don't allow that to cause inflation. Because a lot of times when labor prices go up, the price of a product goes up. So we have to find ways or a balancing scale to be able to keep both of those in line, so that once we give people a livable wage, that wage remains livable.
Gotcha. I understand. You want so basically, don't want to erase the dividend,
right,
by increasing the cost of living to be almost commensurate with what the wage is.
That's right.
Gotcha. Okay. And the last one, let's talk about economic growth in District 85.
Okay. For the economic growth of District 85, I'm inviting anybody that do not live in District 85 to come to 85. Anyone that wants to do business, I invite you to come to District 85 to do business, because in order for our economic growth to be on par with other successful districts, we have to have ownership. You know, we have to come to the table, and I was always told if you don't have a chair, you got to build your own chair. So we're at the point right now where it's time to build our own chair so we can sit at the table. Um, and with that, um, for the economic growth, we have to have access to capital. I will propose that that our state has money available for our African American banks, so they can have funds available to people who want to do business in our district. And I will propose an incentive for those that live in District 85 that want to do business in District 85. There should be some incentive for people that want to do business in their backyard. So that's an important thing because, without the economic piece, uh, so many other parts of the equation will have a hard time to succeed. So we want to be successful. We want to have a strong district, and the only way to be strong is for us to be able to own and have a bigger piece of our own district.
Got it. Well, here's our big kahuna question as we prepare to close. Let's do a SWOT analysis of District 85. Tell us what you see as the biggest strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat to District 85.
Okay.
So, we enter.
I believe one of the strengths of our district is the diversity in our district. Our district goes from Westwood to Forest Hill, Irene to Poplar. So we have different people from different walks of life. And our district actually hugs a lot of the other districts. I don't know if you've seen a map of District 85, but we kind of touch a little bit of every district.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it allows us to have the spirit of Memphis in our district because we touch a little bit of everything. So, much of our district is on the state line. So we have, I wouldn't say a fight with Mississippi, but we have the opportunity. We create an opportunity for ourselves to have more of Tennessee funds to stay in Tennessee. So that's one of our strengths. I think you mentioned weaknesses. One of our weaknesses is what I just mentioned. A lot of our Tennessee dollars are going to another state, and in many cases, those funds never come back. So we have to make sure that our neighboring states are able to suck the life out of our district. So, but that also creates an opportunity, and that opportunity is for us to stand up, lock arms, and walk together. And as it pertains to business ownership and creating jobs, because across America, our economy is ran by small business. Mm-hmm. We talk about the big businesses, but 90% of our nation's companies are small businesses, and small business fuels a district. So we want to invite people to come and take advantage of the real estate that you can get here at a decent price, and be able to move forward so that our state can.
Okay.
And the threats, with every strength that we have, there's a threat associated with it as well. With our strength as being that we are diverse, one of the threats is you may have to reason with people a little bit more because they're from a different walk of life than you. With one of our strengths being our location, there's a threat of outside districts taking resources away from it. So, but also on the reverse, with every threat we have the strength to be able to overcome those threats, because we understand that when there's no enemy inside, the enemy outside can do us no harm. So we want to make sure the district, we do all we can to make District 85 the best district in the state of Tennessee. And we want to make Tennessee the best state in the union. And we want to make sure that people, no matter what their zip code, no matter what their skin color, no matter their sexual preference, no matter what, that they have an opportunity to live life more abundantly than they did in the past. And I truly believe that our future is much brighter than our past.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that African proverb that if there's no enemy within,
That's
then
it.
the enemy outside can do us no harm.
That's
And
it.
so, what I'll do is I want to address our viewers really quick, and then we'll give you the closing words.
All right.
Everyone who is watching, thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee Candidates in Conversation. I want to leave you with this thought. Everyone can make a difference, and one vote can be the difference. It's important that each person who is registered to vote, that you get out and go to the polls and tell 10 people that you know to do the same, and ask them to tell 10 people each that they know to do the same. Our voice is louder when we use it together, and the best way to use our voice together to make an impact is by voting and choosing who will represent us and who will be responsible and accountable to us for making the decisions that can make our lives better. Remember that the deadline to have your request for an absentee ballot in the hands of the Election Commission is July 30th, 2020. That means you can't mail it on July 30th. They need to have it in their hands by July 30th. If you want to vote by absentee ballot, at this point, my recommendation is going to be for you to go down to the Election Commission and hand that form in, complete whatever process so that you can receive your absentee ballot. Okay, so also, if you already have the absentee ballot, send your absentee ballot in now so that it can be counted on August 6th, Election Day. It's important that we do this and that we pay attention to what's happening, because the rules have changed. And in light of COVID-19, anyone who would like to absentee vote can do so. So don't miss this opportunity. And lastly, I want to add that we all have to come to our senses and take the census. By doing so, we ensure that our district lines are drawn fairly, and we ensure that every dollar that's available to the state of Tennessee as a resource and that can travel to Shelby County actually gets here, so that our communities who need these resources can have access to them and be able to thrive and move forward for Shelby County and the city of Memphis. And so now I'll give you the last word. State Representative Jesse Chism, tell the voters why they should vote for you.
Okay. Well, if you are a person that's concerned about criminal justice reform, if you're concerned about education, if you're concerned about our health care, you want someone who's going to actively listen, someone who is going to use everything that he's ever learned in life to be able to take those things and transfer that to being able to negotiate for the needs of the people, not only in our district, but in our city as a whole. I really believe that we are in fights that we can win. And in order for us to win, we have to lock arms, square our shoulders, and keep moving. So I'll leave you all with a quote that I got from Benjamin Elijah Mays from Morehouse College, where he said, "Let's take what we do and do it so well that no man living, no man dead, and no man yet to be born can do it any better." Ladies and gentlemen, I really believe that we can do this thing together. And together is the only way we can do it, you all. Let's fight together. Thank you.
All right, and tell the people how they can reach you and get more information about you.
Okay, in order to reach me, you can go to learn more about me, to volunteer, or to just find out more about Jesse Chism. Go to jessechism.com, and it will give you my legislative updates. It tells what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and it even tells you how you can join this movement. So definitely go to jessechism.com. You can also find me on Facebook, and you can also find me on Twitter. So we want to create a lot of ways that you can reach us, and we are so happy to be able to. We can't touch people like we normally do, but we definitely want to stay in contact with us all, because even though we're social distancing, we don't want to be too far of a distance from each other. So we want to be a phone call, internet click away.
All righty. Well, you heard it from the man himself, State Representative Jesse Chism. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Coffee, Candidates, and Conversation. And for those voters who are watching and who hung in there with us, thank you so much for hanging in and learning more about State Representative Jesse Chism. And he's running for re-election as your state representative for District 85. So make sure you vote, stay safe, and be blessed. Have a good evening.